Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for a radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast, we're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, you probably have seen the news reports or seen it featured about Gunther the Sixth. He's not only a German Shepherd, but also the world's richest dog and the subject of a new film that's on Netflix. It's called Gunther'S Millions. We're excited to welcome to our broadcast today the director of Gunther'S Millions, that being Aurelien Leturgie. We're going to talk to Aurelien not only about what it was like for him to be able to share this story, but also I think the mystery and the intrigue around it as well. Aurelien, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So this is a really interesting story. I remember seeing a couple years ago, seeing about Gunther and, thinking to myself, how in the world is this even possible? So I want to ask you, what was it like for you to be able to tell this story and to be able to let us into the layers about how this all happened?
Yeah, you're right. The story, the headline, it was the same when we came across it. We couldn't believe it. A dog that was worth all this money. And so we wanted to really dig deeper and understand, who was, pulling the strings behind. Obviously, a dog cannot manage money. So we went into this journey of investigative journey and trying to find the answers for all of these, questions. And there were definitely a lot more than what meets the eye.
Right. And I think that's the thing, right? I think a lot of times we as human beings, we like the sensational headlines, but you're right. I think when I was reading about Gunther'S Millions, the thing I thought about, too, is that we don't think about, okay, who is the person that's actually doing this? Who are the people involved? So how did the journey begin for you? How did we end up with the film? How did it all start for you?
Going back to 2000, I moved to Miami, and I remember hearing the story of a German Shepherd, a rich dog, buying Madonna's mansion, and everyone was just it was just bonkers, right? And so at the time it was before social media, and so the story was made headline news and then disappeared. And then fast forward about 2.5 years ago, I came across again on an article about Gunther, and that's when really sparked my interest, and I managed to get access to the people who are behind Gunther, and really was able to spend some time with them, and the past 2 years really craft this documentary series to understand the full scope of it.
So now you have, of course, this docu-series here, with Netflix. And you mentioned a really good point, Aurelien, and that is, we did not have social media. We didn't have all this easy access. How did that help, though, in not only spreading the word, but also, of course, one of the reviews I read when I was prepping for your segment was from CNN, and then kind of talking about this experience. What was it like for you now to be able to use new media in particular to be able to help to spread the word about this?
There's a fascination for this story. So I think that when Gunther the Sixth, or at least his ancestor Gunther the Fifth, sold Madonna's house about 1.5 years ago, I think there were like 6 billion impressions of that story just alone. So it was a good indicator that making a series would be definitely the way to go, and it's such a buzzy story that definitely the attention that was given to just anything about Gunther was huge.
Right. So in the docu-series, though, Aurelien, I think the other thing is it shows how we all kind of become complicit in these stories. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's a very catchy headline. It definitely catches your attention. What was that like for you to kind of feature that part? Not only the people involved, but how also there may have been coverage, but not necessarily the questions that there should have been.
It really going into the story that we met incredible characters that had been working for Gunther the dog throughout the years, and yes, of course, you understand that, and there's a lot more to the story. So there are people behind, and we've spoken to a really wide spectrum of people that had worked for the dog throughout the years and getting their part of the story and really creating this, using this as a puzzle and really try to reveal the full story at the end.
Well, I'd say it's one of those things I think that definitely captures people's attention and makes them think for sure. I didn't ask you this when we began the conversation, Aurelien, but I want to ask you about the idea you mentioned, of course, moving to Florida. But when did your love of documenting, when your love of telling stories begin as a filmmaker or director?
I've been in the business of telling stories for quite a while now. It's been over 15 years, and so I've always been attracted to these very buzzy international stories that have a very international footprint, and that's why I started a company called NOBO, and it stands for No Borders, No Boundaries, and that's a production company, and that's really the essence of it. It's really finding these stories that have no boundaries and no borders, and so I think GUNTHER'S MILLIONS was a great example. It takes place in Italy, it takes place in the Bahamas, it takes place in Miami, and you have people from all over the world.
Aurelien, that brings up another point I want people to know. We're going to remind them, of course, where they can be able to see GUNTHER'S MILLIONS. But the other thing is the access. I mean, I think, for you to be able to get the access you did, one thing you had to have built this trust. What was that like for you to have people trust you to be able to share information, to share these stories?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in this case with GUNTHER'S MILLIONS, we came in and we understood that this was a pretty sensitive subject. I mean, you have a trust, you have all this money, and I think part of our job as filmmakers is also to connect with our subject matter and to really build a trust right from the start. And I think being honest about what you're doing, and that really gets you pretty far into the process. So that's what we did. We came in, we met with the people, the caretakers, and the people that manage the trust, and we told them we want to document this. We want to understand all these burning questions, and and so I think honesty and getting comfortable with your subject matter is what got us there in the first place.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something our audience should take a look at. Again, everyone, Aurelien Leturgie has been our guest. He's a filmmaker and director behind GUNTHER'S MILLIONS. It's available now on Netflix for you guys to be able to watch the docu-series there. Really fascinating story. Aurelien, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to having you back on the broadcast again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live, and let's go make today amazing. Take care.